North to south, but it wasn't mine, it was like this, you know?
Tom, like lead us in the flag?
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take the roll, please.
Mayor, Bonnefield.
Here.
Brooks.
Here.
Freitag. Here. Frizzalone.
Here.
Gould.
Here.
Hart. Moran. Ogalla. Weigel.
Sure.
And Eustace.
Sure.
You have a quorum.
Okay, before I actually, well, I'll do the minutes. I'll enter a motion to
So move.
the minutes.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Is there any old business to bring forward? Okay, before we get into new business, I think we are gonna jump down to the executive session that deals with labor negotiations, so I can get them out here, and I got these high-priced attorneys all sitting around, you know, so we don't want them sitting around any longer. You know, they're not that high-priced.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Good results, you're not high-priced. So I'm gonna entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of labor negotiations.
Second.
Motion second. Take the roll, please.
Bonnefield.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yeah.
Freit-
Yeah, and then his homework return.
Yeah, no business.
Okay, thanks for everyone's
I hope we have
patience.
insurance.
Yeah.
Under,
We'll sue him.
under new business authorizing professional service, contract with administrative adjudication hearing officer, Michael Carroll.
So
Moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Number two, authorizing professional service contract with administrative adjudication hearing officer, Kelly, whatever, Kandersky.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, awarding bid for gasoline and diesel. Moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Awarding contract for security guard services.
Move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Award bid for permit and case system for the land use department. So moved.
Second.
Second, all in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Declaring sheriff's seized vehicles surplus and authorizing disposal. Move. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Declaring vehicles and surplus and authorizing donation.
Move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Monee Township for continuation and mobility management project.
Move.
Second.
I think those were actually being removed.
No.
These two are okay.
These two are okay.
Okay, my bad.
All right, just keep quiet, Nick. We'll let you know. We'll let you know.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Peatone Township for continuation in the mobility management project. Moved, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Well, I'm gonna have some questions on the next one myself. Authorizing amendment IGA for the Lincoln and 394 Enterprise Zone. So I make a motion to so move. Motion, second discussion. Actually, I'm not familiar with this one, so.
They're changing the name, it's the
I've
Will
seen
Cook.
that. This is
So-
mostly Cook County.
Right.
This is more in Cook County?
Well, that's where it's based now. So
Okay.
real quick history, and there's a lot of complicated pieces to this, but there's a whole process to go through. We have an existing enterprise zone here, which we've modified before, I may have used as an example, but I'll stick to this one now. The enterprise zones are obviously targeted to economically distressed areas. The current one is in Fort Heights and Sauk Village. They're looking to expand this to include other communities, all those that are listed on there. The main ones that are impacted in Will County are Crete and Beecher. There's a limit on all these enterprise zones across the state, 15 square miles. So I'll use this example, when we had around the Elwood Joliet area, we have modified that where we decertified areas that were wetlands or parking lots or whatever, and recertified new areas that allowed, and we've had some success in this, getting away from the bigger corporate entities and making it more attractive for some of the smaller, mid-sized businesses. And I think in District 6, we've had some success with
We
some of those
brought in
companies.
Shannon.
Right,
Yeah.
there've been a couple success stories. So what this is doing is expanding towards that limit, and for our communities in Crete and Beecher and some of the unincorporated that it touches in between, it brings them into an enterprise zone, makes them more attractive, gives them another tool. And so they're pushing this. The South Suburban Mayors and Managers is kind of the lead agency on this. They have an outside consultant from the Center for Neighborhood Technology who's driving this as far as the paperwork. They did hold a public hearing on October 29th, just as we did last fall, because we approved an application last fall. We did the IGA and ordinance then, and they again held the public hearing like they did this time as part of that process. We didn't host it, they hosted it. In your packet is a draft IGA and ordinance. There's also a map of the area, which, as Jim has pointed out, a lot of it is in Cook, but it does come out in Twill. I've talked with Judy O'Gala. She was interested in Peatone becoming part of it. At some point in the future, it's possible, but at this point, it's kind of unlikely because getting the map over there to include it is tough. And this is, the reason it's the Lincoln 394 is it's kind of in that corridor, the 394 corridor, which is, there's been a lot of effort the county's made and others have made to try to study that corridor and see how we can bring more economic development. So really we have to sign on as an IGA partner. We have to do an ordinance approval, much like we did last fall. All the other communities that are partners in this are doing this at, during the same period of time, and it's a tight window. Assuming they all approve it, then this will go forward to DCO for review and certification. If one of the communities doesn't approve of it, then it falls apart.
Yeah.
If DCO doesn't approve it, it can still be rejected. So, but this is very well supported by the communities of Crete and Beecher. I've talked with them. And it really doesn't cost us anything. This, to remind everyone, this is on state sales tax for construction materials and some of the related things. There is some provisions in here about local incentives, but it doesn't require us. We can do any other incentives we want to do, but it doesn't require us to do any additional incentives. So,
I mean, one of the things, and we've talked about, as we refine, kind of look at our own and talk about, giving incentives and additional incentives in enterprise zone. I think it's an issue that we do have to work through. This is on the sales tax, which can be considerable. These communities, Will County is butt up to Indiana, so I think it helps make them a little more attractive compared to northern Indiana.
and if they're making improvements and they're getting the benefit on the constructions of materials and sales tax, they're going to pay property taxes, employ local folks, and hopefully have some other tangible benefits. So I think that's why we support these.
Now, the representation on this enterprise zone, I assume there's going to be some representation from Will County communities of Will County.
Right. Assuming this goes forward, they're working on having somebody who's going to be an administrator. All that hasn't been spelled out exactly yet. I mean, they're working through that, but we would have some representation and voice in this because we are a stakeholder in the process. So.
So I'm for it. It's needed to be more clarification.
Just one other, just for what it's worth. This zone, as it stands now, this zone will expire 12/31 of 2021, so there's still a lot of life left in this. So that's a positive. And in your packet, if you're curious, in section 4 of the ordinance document, there are all the qualifications. You have to meet the distressed area, you have to meet a certain number of minimum of 3 of the 10 criteria. Most of the applications in the last year met more than those, but that's a minimum. And there's all the documents in there. So
Actually, when you look at that 30, I said 3394, you look at that 30 category, and especially in that section of Cook County, which borders Will County, so we have an interest. That could be an area that could use a boost.
Well,
some economic development, and it does have an effect on Will County too. So.
Well, and the one thing, Jim, I know you know this, is in that area, it's not more of the commerce and travel is north and south across the border. It's not as much east-west. There's a lot of interaction with the South Suburban Cook communities in those. And that's why they're more active. Some of those out in I would say, more active in the South Suburban mayors and managers than the Will County Governmental League, because they have more interactions
And they have more common,
socially
you
and
have some
business.
common
and
interests.
stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, you're absolutely correct. Okay, so we have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Next, we have authorizing amended ordinance for the Lincoln and 394 corridor zone. So I'm gonna move, this is the second one.
This is the
Number
ordinance.
11.
It's the ordinance, right?
Oh, yeah, okay, so move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
And I will keep the board updated on the progress of getting all those approvals and DCO's approval, so I'll let you know if it's gonna happen or not, so.
I don't think it would.
We're hopeful. I think there's some things happening in Springfield there's actually a conference call in 10 minutes on some of these issues, but the governor's office is redefining some of the rules on like the edge tax credits and some of the other programs, changing some of the rules on that, so hopefully that's a positive sign, because a lot of that had been held out, so this, including these enterprise zones, so this is a good thing, I hope, so.
Okay, next we have extension of the term of the board review. Well, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next we have replacement hire for the animal control department. Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Replacement hire for the county executive
Jim,
office.
this one needs to be removed.
Oh,
Which
This was
one?
for the county executive's office, that was not
Okay.
filed,
Harold.
hired internally. That was the one, so there's no action.
Okay, no action needed, okay.
Mr. Chairman, is it appropriate, I would like to make a comment that either now or we're gonna go through the committees on the budget, related to the hires, so I guess is it.
You have it.
So, I realize some of this is probably more of a statement than things are gonna change, but I was asked to speak to the truck driver positions, which we brought back a number of times.
Asked
And-
by who?
I'm sorry?
Asked by who?
The county executive and the department. We have, statement of fact, I'm not just expecting to change opinions here necessarily, but we have 4 vacancies in the highway department that have been there two of them have been there for a considerable amount of time, and during this process, we've had 2 more. They largely were because of retirements at higher level positions, people moved up and vacated the truck driver positions. I can hear, and I've heard the board say they're not interested in filling those positions. We have not had an up or down vote on those. And I know in the recommendation for the budget, that funding is being removed from those positions. It is likely, and this has just happened in the last week, that we will have another vacancy potentially because we have an employee with a medical issue that's going to leave county service most likely, and that will probably trigger movement potentially upwards internally, so we could have 5 vacancies. And the concern is.
Is it a work comp
In those
issue?
cases, that'd be another retirement, it's not a workman's comp.
Is that a work comp issue?
No, this is a major medical issue that this
Okay.
person is
Oh.
leaving.
Unworkable.
So not being able to return to work. So, I guess our concern is going into the bad weather season when these people do work a considerable number of hours, being sensitive to overtime and also safety issues for both the public who uses our roads, but also our employees, because when we have bad weather, our truck drivers can only drive so many hours, and then they sleep until they can meet the minimum to go back out on the road. And we internally have made a policy on our call-outs to maximize the time, because by contract, when we call them out, they have to be out for 3 hours. So we basically, and I'm hopefully gonna say this correctly, we call them out at 4:30 to get the maximum 3 hours of call-out time before their regular shift starts at 7:30. And that's why in the past, you'll see county roads are clear more often than the state or other roads, because our guys are out before everybody. But with 4 and potentially 5 people down, we're gonna have a tough time keeping that quality of service, and also, we're probably gonna have overtime issues, which we're sensitive to. So, it's too late to probably authorize hires this month because it wasn't on the agenda again, but I would ask you to consider the funding going forward, because if without the funding, we will not be able to hire going forward. And the other thing, I guess I've said this before, but I'm gonna say it again, These 4 positions were funded in the FY15 budget. We were responsive and receptive to your direction, as always, to delay hires because the board does not fund step increases and things like that. So we did delay these hires initially. We could have hired them much earlier in the year, but we didn't, to build up some reserve to cover the union increases. In hindsight, we probably maybe should have hired them because then we wouldn't have got into the budget process. And because that's when we started trying to replace them, was the beginning of the budget process. But they were funded this year. We're not overspending our budget. Bruce has never come back to the board and asked for additional funding because he overspent his budget. Next year, we won't have the funding, so we won't be able to hire them. But
Let me say that, I think on the 4 positions, I think we pretty much probably had that discussion. We may not have had that discussion with the county executive, but that was his choice. But I think going forward, with any additional, like you say, you may have a 5th, I think that, we're receptive to go forward on hires, going forward. Those 4 have been
eliminated.
So anything going forward, I think we would like to go forward. And I still think we would like to have discussions on, Bruce, I guess this is to you, you have supervisory personnel that are all qualified to get in the truck. You all have CDLs. I know that the state of Illinois has done this. They put their supervisory personnel out there when needed. Let's give us maybe some time and see how it works. I think we could also be receptive to seasonal hires, if it's allowed within the contract.
Yeah.
I know part-time is, I don't know what the.
Well, I think the way the contract's written right now, we don't really have seasonal employees, but come summer, spring next year, when we start renegotiating, then that's an issue that can be brought up, absolutely.
But we do have part-time positions. We can use part-time positions within the contract, which I personally don't think is always a bad way to go. Let people come in part-time, see how they're going to work out. They can be next in line for a full-time position. I think we just, if we can just give a chance to see if we can operate a little bit differently, and see how it works out. And if it's really creating a problem, we'll try to address it. I mean, but I think going forward, that could be, I think, we would move forward. So if you have another person leave, I think that would go forward.
And I just, again, this is a fact, statement of fact, I guess, is since Larry Walsh has been county executive, and I think it goes years before that, we have not added new truck driver positions for years, even though you people say, well, we're incorporating more, but we're adding lane miles to our county system, which those all have to be.
Are we those you people? You people? Who are those people? Who is the you people? I'm giving you the business, Nick.
These guys use the county roads.
You peoples.
So, but I don't know what I said, so I'm sorry. But I'm just saying that, just so people don't think the government is blowing up here, we have not added truck driver positions at all.
But let me say this, Nick, but certainly.
So it's not, well, I just want
and I'm not here to debate departments. Certainly I can say that the executive branch of government, and not just under this current administration, the executive branch of government, from a budgetary standpoint, has substantially grown over the years, substantially. So that's how we've all held the line here, and that goes, by the way, like I say, that's not to this administration. Maybe in the prior administration blew it up more than anybody, and maybe that board was partly responsible for that. But I'm just saying, the executive branch of government has grown considerably over time.
we're not debating it, but there are a number of departments who've considerably shrunk in the last 10 years.
And that was because of demand. I mean, so it's not like, and I don't really, this is not kind of debate with you. I can say, yeah, land use went down, but there's less work for land use. We've shifted resources over time. And I think we continue to try to put the resources in the right places. And, you know, I would say, let's give this a chance, and let's see how it works, and let's see if there's some alternative ways. But anything going forward, I think, Nick, I don't think it's the intention of this board to get cut any more than we've cut into this. So,
Should we, Mr. Speaker, revisit this, put it back on the agenda, revisit, because Bruce has the winter, the weather, we don't know. I think you mentioned once before, sometimes the weather is unpredictable. You mentioned Cold City and some of the other tornadoes. There are things unpredictable. Should we not revisit this?
yeah, Mr. Brooks, I think we've revisited it. I think we, you know, we're moving this forward, and it doesn't mean we can't revisit it at some time. If Bruce School really feels it's really hindering his operation. But I do think there's alternatives. We do a lot of intergovernmental agreements. Hey, look, if Bruce can't get out to Frankfurt Township and he needs Frankfurt Township to make a run down 191st Street, we're more than happy to do it for him. It happens all the time, Bruce, right? You have a lot of intergovernmental agreements or a lot of help, not necessarily agreements, intergovernmental cooperation.
Well, we do have an intergovernmental agreement with all the road districts.
So, you know.
We did that a couple of years ago.
So in a pinch and catastrophic things, I'll tell you what, the Frankfurt Township, if Bruce really needs to plow through drifts or needs to wing back snow, we have a road grader, as other townships do. You don't have a road grader, do
No,
you?
we
So-
sold ours.
Yeah, so my point is that, you know, from equipment wise, there's cooperation with other jurisdictions and so forth. I think we can do this. Let's give it a chance, and we'll review it. But I also think that we can look at part-time people and some other things like, so I think we're gonna move forward. Thanks. Okay, next we have the amendment to the Will County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 110, alcohol beverages, to correct Scribner's error. Mary?
Yeah, over the last year, you've had 3 different ordinances that have gone through amending the liquor ordinance. Back in May, when the first one was passed, the portion of the ordinance that's signed by the executive and the county clerk indicated a section number 110.025. The attachment was 110.023. Unfortunately, that 110.025 carried through in the next 2 ordinances. So we're looking to correct that Scribner's error so it reflects 110.023.
All right, so we'll
Second.
Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, thank you, Mary. Next, we're awarding bid for digital discussion system for county office building, county boardroom, and committee. You know, Mike, we're moving this along. We're gonna be able to actually communicate in the boardroom?
Hopefully.
Okay.
We're gonna open the bids Tuesday.
Okay.
So that's why we saved it, so we can
Okay.
roll it along. There's 2 options though, like the ones you see.
Right.
One, the plain Jane, or the one with the screen. So when we do open the bids, I don't know, we'll know the price difference.
Okay.
So I don't know, I'll give you a call and see which way you wanna go.
Yeah, you know, the thing is we're gonna leave a space on the agenda for this. You know, this is something that's been needed in our boardroom for the last 15 years at least.
It's the boardroom and here.
And here. So, I mean, I think it's gonna be great for the public. They'll be able to hear us, we'll be able to hear them, and when they get up to speak and so forth, so. Well, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
In the decision-making process of what one we're gonna choose, have we really talked about criteria or, on that? If you're gonna have to move it forward pretty quickly, or choose one, I'm just wondering, how do we make that choice? Without, or can we do, or I guess, Mary, I'm gonna look at you. Or should we bring forward something showing both options and have the board to decide? Or should just, for example, you know, because if we're gonna bring something to the board, well, I don't wanna make that decision alone. I'm sure the county executive doesn't wanna make that decision alone, Mike. Right, so how do we make the decision which system we're going to choose unless we do it at the county board?
You could put both options on, you could put parameters with regard to price, that you don't want to spend any more than, which may make the decision for you, but otherwise, yeah, that you would take it to the county board to make the choice.
Let me ask the committee this then. Mike, what was you, in your view, well, I'm gonna use a percentage rather than a dollar. If the more sophisticated system that shows a screen and shows the ability to vote, and, well, the other one has the ability to vote, but it shows a screen and so forth, you know, I personally don't know how important the visual portion is, because we are gonna put the agenda up on a screen, so it'll be up outside of, you know, outside of people like me who will still not be able to see the screen. I don't know where this display comes in what big advantages there are. I mean, if it was gonna be 10% more, do we say, okay, for 10% more, maybe we would do it? But if
Well, that's why I put it as an alternate in there, so we wouldn't know the exact price difference. I mean, if it's 10 grand more, I mean, it would be viable for the future.
I think
you
what
know,
we'll do
because
is-
there's all that the bells and whistles.
I think what we'll do is, we'll show the main bid, and then we're gonna show the alternate bid in the resolution. We do that, Mary, and then we can accept either.
Right,
then we-
because you're making a choice as
So
to
then we
what
can make
system
a-
and what bidder, yeah, I think that you can do that.
Okay, so why don't
One
we,
resolution and then they'll amend
Right.
it on the floor. to
Bruce?
make a
Then you
choice.
can vote on it.
or have an alternate
You
in the
want an alternate
resolution?
Yes, I mean, that's.
Why not just have
I
alternate
think we're-
resolutions?
We'll have alternate resolutions.
And might give those recommendations.
Yeah, then you
Yeah.
know what you go
Speak
with
about both the
resolution
other
A, yeah.
recommendations.
Like you say, certainly since we only do this every 50 years, you know, we want as much future capacity as we can. It may make sense to go to the upgraded one if it really does mean more longevity. You know, so we'll
So that
so
motion.
Mary,
goes to
Bruce, you'll
resolution.
figure this out.
Okay.
All right. So whatever we're leaving space for, we're leaving space for whatever you need.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it.
Got it.
Okay. Do we go on it? Yeah, we did. Okay. Okay, proclamations, Mr.
We have none, but I have a question, Beth.
Yes.
If one came in maybe tomorrow, Monday, would that be too late for Thursday or have to go next month?
It'd have to go
What if they
next month.
request, what if they wanted it?
We
Still
get to
can't do
amend
it?
the agenda because you're setting the county
So
board
it's too
agenda
late?
right now.
All right, we have
The only other thing we can do is suspend the rules and
Yeah,
wall
or allow it,
proclamation.
yeah.
But you want to kind of list it out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, no.
Okay. Appointments by the county executive, someone moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, request for, first up, we're putting out the request for qualifications for the construction manager for the courthouse. I know David has put that together. I still haven't had time, I've been out of town, so I didn't get a chance to review that. We do want to get it out there. We have time, but if anybody has an interest in reviewing it, we get hard copies. Beth can give you a hard copy. Let's try to get comments back by within the next 10 days. If you have comments, and then probably Reagan, you should take a hard look at that.
I already did.
Yes, she did.
I did, and I thought it looked fine. The only change I want is, towards the beginning, there was a commencement date of June
Exactly.
30th. I'd like that.
Does anybody else have a really communicate?
Yeah, same thing. If they had a commencement date that was later, we should make it earlier, because if we decide to
Yeah.
get rolling, why wait?
Okay, so I'm gonna
Suggested
take a
March
look,
or
I'm gonna
April.
look through it, I'll probably look at it more, in a little more technical way, maybe a little differently, but I'll do that today, and I'll give my, but if anybody else wants to review it, we'll give you a week to get comments back, how's that, by the end of next week. And then maybe we'll sit down, with David, or I'm thinking,
Yeah, he's the one that.
I'm just wondering if we should try to get a meeting together, Reagan, for
You?
so the committee can take a look at it. The committee should take a look, your committee should take a look at it, regardless of whether they want to or not. Because the capital committee is
They could do
basically.
that, they could do that on the email, and make, you're gonna have them make comments anyway.
Yeah.
So you already have the comments,
think
and once it goes out, then we
Let them
can,
review and respond.
On their own.
Yeah,
the rest of the questions we could ask once the interview time
all
comes.
right.
Can we just put a deadline on that then?
You get out by the end of November, right?
Yeah.
And then you give them.
Comments in
Well,
before Thanksgiving.
I think the idea is let's just, rather than say the end of November, let's just say on December 1st. You know, we'll just say like in December 1st.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
you know, and then we'll give them,
How much did they get last time?
Can we send the RFQ out to her committee and say to respond by the end of November with any
Yeah.
comments back to staff? And Mary's
Yeah.
okay with that.
That's right, as long as they don't talk amongst each
Right.
other.
no, we'll just set it on.
Just
the-
comments,
Right,
they see
so
something.
we'll get it out this afternoon
Yeah,
to
this is not for them to, it's
Just
for them
to
to be
review
informed.
any
On your
input.
own.
And you know what, and if we need to convene the committee, quickly, we'll figure something out.
You are meeting December 2nd, I believe it is, so even
Yeah.
if you have
So
it on
maybe,
your
you know what,
agenda, then.
we'll release it after the capital improvements committee, which is
Yeah.
December 2nd, and we'll release it on December 3rd.
Yeah.
How's that?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, but we'll still get it out to the committee this week.
Okay, very good. Okay, committee reports. Oh, yeah, you know what, I will do it under, yeah, this is business, yeah. On committee reports, anything for Tom? Tom, you have anything?
3 zoning cases and 1 resolution.
Okay, any questions for Tom? Okay, finance committee, Mike?
Yeah, we'll be voting on the budget, we're voting on all of the levies, and then we are transferring some funds within several budgets. We're authorizing our IMRF payments, delinquent tax program, and creating some new funds for the sheriff's department for some different things, including a new fund for the state laundry money. I know everybody likes to say that all the time.
Little longer money.
Yeah, there's laundry money.
What kind of detergent do you use?
I used to work in one of those plants.
Yeah. Okay,
So that's it.
any questions for Mike? Public Works, Don?
Most of it's routine, but we have one big project, which is engineering services for widening 135th Street. It's $1.9 million, a mile and a half in length for reconstruction and widening, paving, traffic signals, storm sewer, landscaping, and erosion control from New Avenue past Smith Road. So it's a pretty big stretch of road.
We have some big ones out there. Mr. Gould, go out in the bank. Mr. Bruce Gould, I gotta get you Gould.
Everywhere.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Any questions for, additional?
I don't believe we have anything.
Okay. You know what I would like you to look at? I mentioned this to you
We're gonna look
when
at
I
the
came back
budget,
from NACO, and I know a lot of stuff's on the website. Is the sheriff still around, or do you leave?
Sheriff's thing.
He's still there.
Sure. You know, one of the things, Sheriff, that I thought was interesting in one of the sessions I attended, and I get you some information, and I forget the name of the county, except it was county in New Mexico.
That was in Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. And some of the difficulties they were having with jail population, of course, and they were federally ordered. Now, you know, they're a county that's about the same size as ours, but their jail population was 3 times ours. It was, you know, it was unbelievable, actually. But so, they worked on programs on how to reduce the jail population. And, you know, I'd be interested in maybe your committee maybe looking at that issue along, of course, with the sheriff's department. And of course, you gotta work with the courts, you gotta work with other jurisdictions, and how they bring their detainees to us and so forth, and how we could potentially reduce our overall jail population, which of course reduce costs and so forth, and you don't have to personnel, because you know, the same thing that I've talked about, well, I was in the executive session, but we just cannot, we will not have the revenue growth just keep adding on. And you can only shift resources so much from one area to another. At some point, you really have to look at, is there other ways we can reduce costs? So maybe we can even talk to some of those folks from down there. We can look at the.
You said you had a name from NACO.
Yeah. So we'll I think, by the way, Beth, maybe you can look it up.
Sure.
It should be all of that information in those sessions.
Okay.
Should be somewhere on their website.
Okay.
In this case, it was the Large Owen County Caucus Retreat. And if not, call them and let's see if we can get the information and get it over to Darren and the sheriff if he has an interest. Initially, I'd like to maybe get it over to Darren just to start the discussion on some of those efforts worth pursuing. So, all right?
I think Denise on that committee. You're on luck, aren't you?
Yeah, so am I.
Yes.
Good.
I've been on luck for 20 years.
That's fine.
People tend to forget. Yeah.
Good luck the next
But
one.
she's a hot shot. I'm just a worker.
By that he means vice president.
Yeah.
Oh, vice chair.
You know, vice chair, one of the vice chairs.
Yeah.
So, I was talking about, Denise, while you were out of the room, about one of the sessions that we had talked about, is that me? I'm sorry, folks. On the Albuquerque County, talking about their efforts to reduce and manage jail population. And they were pretty successful at it.
They have been, a part of that has been, and something that Chicago's also looking at, is paying attention to whether or not the crime really warrants some in-jail time before the hearing date. So if those things were possible, sending people home to wait for the hearing date, so that they don't pay the expense of maintaining those prisoners until then.
So, I think we need to look at the other methods, because we just can't keep adding. It just, we'll run out of money, you know, or we'll only run a sheriff's department or whatever, so. Okay, legislative, public health and safety. Judy's not here. Okay, so any questions on public health and safety, legislation?
We have a few resolutions that we're gonna get up with. And you were saying, Bruce, that we're gonna split, because it's one thing under the motor fuel tax and the 911, but it's the House Bill 4305.
Except there were three resolutions. Two of them are the result of 4305. But 4305 is not mentioned in either resolution. One is for the emergency 911 for immediate appropriation, so that the all 911 is funded. And the other resolution is for immediate appropriation for the MMT funds. Right. Because we're getting in the winter, we're going to have a dangerous situation if that money.
But it's the same bill.
But we never support a specific bill.
All right.
These bills change. You support the concepts of the bill. And this allows, in either one of these on their own is important enough to move forward, and that's why you have separate resolutions. The point you're making is, we are concerned about 911, and here's another one we're concerned about MFT.
Which I want. Well, the House bill, yeah, there was like one nay, and it went, but it's not gonna be.
Madigan's still holding on to it.
Split.
Madigan's not gonna let go of it because of other issues. So they're waiting, and it has to get into the Senate, then the Senate has to go and it has to get through committee, which it needs to be read 3 times, and they're not gonna come back for 3 days, but they can push it along, but otherwise now, with it, it can like tag onto a trailer or another bill, because December 2nd, the House will be back. But there's no date yet for Senate unless they have reason to. So I think they're just kind of using this as a big
They're not scheduled for
leverage.
next
So
year.
those are two
Yeah.
resolutions, but they both relate, yes, to House Bill 4305.
And then-
And then the other resolution
Balmoral.
relates to Balmoral Park. Now, in Balmoral Park, they've got problems, some of them are of their own creation. But the fact that they didn't get any racing days is an issue. They are in Will County. They're just outside of Creed. And we ought to weigh in on it. There's a resolution that says, hey, we support, the Will County supports the allocation of a reasonable number of racing days to all tracks that have been in compliance for the preceding year.
But they have big pushback down in Springfield as well. I was hearing up from north, from Arlington.
Arlington, of course.
Right. And then, but
You
then-
can
but
eliminate
here's
your
my whole thing.
competition through legislation,
Well-
what a great deal.
I know, but it goes to Jersey. I'm like, come on. The dang prices are gonna go out there. I just didn't.
So let me say this about Balmoral too. The state legislature has continually chipped away at Balmoral in the interest of other racetracks. They first took their thoroughbred racing dates away, and then they continue to take other dates. And people should not, here in Will County, I don't think they have an understanding how many people the horse racing industry employs, and employed in Will County. This is a big industry. This is, they have, people who work these barns, and agriculture feeds into them, and trainers, and this is not something that we just go, oh, it's no big deal. And they really have stuck it to Balmoral over the years.
There's only two legislators that had gone and jumped on Will County, where all of the which I was surprised
The Will
that they
County
didn't all jump
legislators
on.
didn't support them.
Well, they had, just the two, and no one, everyone was kind of downplaying, and no one wants to mess with the big guys.
There is, again, a House bill that's been introduced, I think it's 2633, I may be wrong in the number, but there's a House bill, it's not mentioned in our resolution, but we do say that we want racing days allocated where they're in compliance. It's just not fair. So, those are the three.
Aren't they closing now, Belmont? Aren't they going on?
Well, if you have no dates,
Yeah.
if you have no racing dates, you're out of business.
Yeah,
I guess you're closed. Yeah. Yeah, okay, all right, and they're off. Anything else, Suzanne? Any questions for Suzanne? Okay. Capital improvements, Reagan?
We have a resolution to renew lease for the radio lab.
2660.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for me on the executive committee? I'm going to bring up an issue that I probably should have brought up earlier. Suzanne brought this to my attention. And, it's something that's really, for me, has been a tenure issue. And that is what associations should we belong to, and what associations perhaps really don't necessarily serve Will County's interest. So I'm going to propose a resolution perhaps that basically at least says what the county board is going to join or be part of. That doesn't mean there can't be other, doesn't mean the county executive's office can't get into an association or sheriff or whoever. I'm talking about the associations that involve the legislative process for Will County. And I'm going to suggest to you that the three organizations that I propose that we join as a board, NACO, which is a national association. So that's our national representation. Illinois Association of Counties is a state organization. So it's the state association would be involved in. And the Will County Governmental League would be the local organization that we'd be part of. So we have a federal, state, and local. Now, the odd man out here is Metro Counties, which I think, in my opinion, it's going to be, it's been a little bit of a shaky organization over the last number of years. It was initially supposed to be Collar Counties, but the Collar Counties are leaving. I believe Lake is left, DuPage County is left, Kane County is left.
Cook County's leaving.
Now, there could be problems with Cook County.
And McHenry.
Okay, well, that I don't know. I know the ones that have left.
No, they left.
Who's left?
Downstate.
So
it's no really
so
longer,
it's
I can
not,
call it Metro.
it's really,
Okay.
it's no longer an organization that I think was for the intended purpose. Even though there has been talk about forming another association of the Collar Counties, which would be a more regional association that we
Right,
could consider
right, there's-
down the road if there's interest in the Collar Counties all getting together and talking. This doesn't certainly prevent us from getting together with the Collar Counties anyway and acting a little bit as a group for our interest. So,
Well, can I also make a comment really quick? After talking and going, down to NACO, and I got a membership, which we go and it feeds from the Illinois Association of Counties to NACO. We have probably the worst membership throughout the whole country, going into NACO. But we're also the only state that has multiple organizations legislating for the same cause. Granted, we could have different priorities and responsibilities being onto the Collar County versus downstate, but still, for the most part, we are very much similar of any of our unfunded mandates and whatsoever. And best is in force of numbers. So they are trying to have that initiative of just having one organization, and that's where the Illinois Association of County Boards, which I was down in Springfield, and I met with them for a few hours, and I'm going to help them a little bit also with their membership, because the downstate can learn from what is going on with the large. We've made these mistakes, and we're going to try having more of a together organization. But in the same token, they also want to go off and do large urban, small urban. You can break off in teams. So they have some ideas that we're trying to do. So hopefully the whole idea of people coming up with these groups and going down and legislating and having the same agenda, we could break that chain. I mean, we need to be one force of all getting together. This is for counties and this is what we're doing. And also the stop of, it's downstate. Bruce Gould was excellent at legislating when he came up, and I was asking about the motor fuel taxes. We were down there watching that as all being held ransom, and he said, I'm not gonna lie, we're okay. Downstate is what I'm worried about. And that just needs to be, I think, a better attitude to adopt for everyone. So I hope.
let me also say with NACO funds state organizations, and it's a considerable amount of money. But because we have multiple associations here, they don't fund them. Because how do they split the money? But they do now recognize Illinois Association of Counties as the association that represents Illinois. So,
We're gonna
and
embrace
I do
them.
think they're giving them funding. So, like I say, this is, if I can have a motion, and I'll.
I got a question.
Yes, go ahead.
What about the National Black Organization? You don't want to join that?
Well, you're a member, aren't you? We're
Does
joint-
that exclude
we're
those?
joint- We're joint three of them.
But
Well,
does that
let me-
exclude that?
Well, let me
Because
say
we
this.
are members of that.
Let me say this, Herb. I'm not opposed to any additional associations. But when you're talking about associations that represent minority interests, not majority interests necessarily, where does that stop? So now if I get the Irish Association, I have this association, and I have the Hispanic Association, do we join them all? We're supportive of you being part of that. I think that I'm supportive of maybe
Well, my
on an annual
question-
basis, but no, we generally do not join smaller associations or caucuses
Right. So we currently have a membership there, Denise and I think Ken Harris also. Does that exclude?
I believe all three.
Yeah, we do.
Ken Harris.
Myself and Denise.
Yeah.
So
I didn't even know we had that.
Are we, you know, I didn't know that we had another association that just represented.
Well, let me do this.
David Caucus.
But you started, you prefaced this discussion talking about those associations that affect the legislative process.
That doesn't affect.
And that doesn't affect. Doesn't apply.
And that doesn't apply.
Okay.
You can't
Okay.
that association.
Okay, that is my question.
Yeah, I don't want to exclude you.
Yeah. I thought you wanted to join, but that's.
I'll join in a second, you know?
Okay.
I got Sicilian,
I know.
Sicilian blood in me, so we may have some of the DNA, brother.
That's great, that really.
You never know.
Okay.
You
That's my
never
question.
know.
Thank you.
know?
Thank
You look like brother.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if I can have a motion, and we'll formalize this through resolution. If I can have a motion on this, move these three associations forward.
So moved.
Move, second, all in favor?
Aye.
So, do a resolution, we added the, with that we're adding this to the county board agenda
Under your,
under executive.
okay, just establishing these three organizations.
Yes.
Budget was already adjusted.
Okay, is there any public comment out there today? I have no report. Any other announcements? We already did our executive session. I'll entertain a motion to approve the county board agenda as amended.
Move.
Move second, all in favor?
Aye.
Our next meeting will be December 3rd. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Move second, all in favor?
Aye.
Jim, you got a meeting here.